Hey guys, welcome to the Silver Report. Here we are, it's Sunday, April 2nd, 2017. We have gold currently trading at $1,250.20. Silver's trading at $18.33. And let's get right into some of the economic factors that will be playing a part into the price of precious metals. Because what we've been seeing taking place in the United States, and there is a definite divergence of confidence in the actual results. So, what we've seen last week, the Commerce Department, it released its third revision for the fourth quarter of 2016 GDP. Now, the number came in at 2.1%. It's amazing that you're seeing headlines about how this is great, about how it beats the expectations of 2% growth, how everyone's excited about it, how this is such a wonderful reason to celebrate. Meaning that growth during the President Obama's final year in office, it landed at 1.6% GDP. That's the low watermark. That puts Obama presidency in last place among all post-World War II presidents when it comes to economic growth. So this has been the slowest period of growth of any president since World War II. There's been 13 post-World War II presidents, beginning with Harry Truman, who had the disadvantage of beginning the aftermath of one of the largest wars in history, during which the economy contracted 11.6%, 4 times the contraction of any other negative year. So even with what happened under George Bush Jr., and he was even beat out by Barack Obama's record. Truman, he was also a Democrat. He posted the 2 best years of growth on record, 1950 at 8.7% and 1951 at 8%. There was no 0% interest rates to gin up the economy back then. In fact, it was an idea that most people would think was insane. Lend out money for free. 13 of 13 presidents is no mild distinction. Obama had 8 full years to enact a growth policy, while many of his predecessors never had 2 complete terms. George H.W. Bush, Jimmy Carter, they just had 4 years. Gerald Ford, he had less than 3 years, and Richard Nixon had 5. So what we're seeing, the Obama economy was a conclusive failure. What we've seen, the average growth rates for each president under Lyndon Johnson, 5.3%. Kennedy, 4.3%, Clinton, 3.9%, Reagan, 3.5%, Carter, 3.3%, Eisenhower, 3%, and so on and so forth. So Obama, at 1.6%, gave us the slowest performing economy. And it looks like we're on track to go even below that now, because what we are watching is the collapse of our economy. Many people, they can't conceive of what a collapse looks like. They're looking for a big stock market drop. A lot of people really didn't understand just what took place during that stock market drop. They see, oh, well, that's a big crisis. We see the headlines. They show us the numbers, how far it went down. Everyone gets upset. All of a sudden they say we need to give money to our banker friends. Everyone gets upset for a little while. Then they just forget about it. They just forget about it. And here we are, just 8 years later, and we see that there is stores closing around the country. We see that when it comes to auto sales, automakers are increasing incentives because they're no longer able to sell cars. That we've had this fabricated economy, and more than that, we've had GDP lifted up by healthcare now, because they've done government-mandated healthcare. So if you were to remove healthcare, you would see that our GDP is at staggeringly low, desperate numbers already. So people keep saying, well, I've been hearing about this collapse for years. When's it ever going to happen? Things are bad. And it's amazing that they can turn any story and use this propaganda. I mean, you could see it clearly with this whole Russiagate idea. They just continually bring up false news, false narratives to be able to accomplish their will. At this point, they've turned and radicalized half of the population against the elected president. And what we're seeing take place in this country is a misrepresentation of the facts. Now, for example, they say, well, look at the U.S. Americans' savings has increased. The wealth of the Americans have increased. And what we've seen is something very dangerous because the spending habits have changed in America. Not in our government. They haven't changed their spending habits. They still want to continue to live like they're high on the hill. Of course, it's not their money, right? But for the American consumer, we see that consumer spending is down. Retail spending is down. People are saving money. They're worried. They're afraid. In fact, there's a large portion of the populace that is buying precious metals, buying silver, buying gold. Because they understand that everything is not according to the story that they're telling us. They're telling us a lie. And they're using this information to get everyone pumped up, to put their money into the stock market, when really, when you look at the hard facts and the performance of the GDP in the United States, it's clear that America is finished. At least in this current state. As long as somebody, that was a good comment, that was a pretty wise comment. As long as we could borrow money, as long as people will take the dollars, it's okay. It's okay, we'll still do well. But what we've seen take place is we have a media that goes out and tells us that we are in the middle of an Obama recovery. And they're setting this narrative that somehow, I mean, when you look at the polls, they show that among Democrat voters, they all expect that we're going to have massive job losses and go into a major recession. Now just think about that for one moment, because we're already in the heat of a major recession. American economy has contracted so severely that the estimates for the first quarter of 2017's GDP is 0.9% growth. This is unheard of for the American economy. The American economy is dead. Is dead. And major retailers are going out of business. Auto companies can no longer sell their used cars. They're having backlogs, repos, debt at an all-time level. Not only federal, but personal debt has amassed to a level that is absolutely unheard of. On top of that, people are no longer using their money for fun things, to go out, to live the extravagant lifestyle they once used to live. They're using it to be able to try to keep up with inflation, to be able to put food on their table. Using it to be able to maintain their bills or maintain their house. Pay down some of their credit card debt. Because really, what we've seen take place is not a boom, but a robbery of the citizens of the United States. And the only way to be able to escape the turmoil, the trouble that we really face, is to examine the facts for yourself and to take your life into your own hands and to make investments that are separated from their system, because it is falling apart. It gets worse every day. The headlines continue every day, and they still, it's amazing just the way these manias work. When every story in the news becomes a reason to buy into the stock market. Now, how can we go to some of the worst period, actually the absolute worst period of economic growth in American history since World War II, and have a stock market near at all-time highs, the highest level? This is a mania. There is not a boom as of yet. In fact, nothing has taken place, but these people are speculating. More than that, it's a bunch of people pumping up your head to get your money into there so they can capitalize and profit, even when things are down or when things are sideways. It really is absolutely ludicrous. And one thing you really must pay attention to is the stock market is not the economy. It never was. You see, whenever they say the economic crisis, because you watch the stock market drop 800 points, and people don't really understand, most of those citizens that were out there in the street protesting didn't even have money in the stocks. When they took our taxes and gave it to their banker friends, these banks are still insolvent. Nothing has changed with their principles. In fact, it's gotten worse. Much, much worse. And the fact that they try to tell you that things are okay, it only shows you that it's propaganda. Very similar to what you see taking place with this Russiagate, with this constant inflammatory remarks pumping through our mainstream media designed to delude the minds of the people as they slowly are robbed. Investment in silver, investment in gold, for your personal safety, for the safety of your home and your family, is the only way to be able to protect your assets. In a savings account, they're not safe. In a 401k, they're definitely not safe. In a pension, a lot of people have typically grown to find them as being reliable. They trust in them. They don't even have savings of their own. They just rely on their 401k or their pensions. And these pension funds are broke around the United States. State, government pensions are broke. Private pensions are going broke. The money is gone. We are in a period where there is no economic growth that is sustainable for the increase in population. We are looking at some of the worst economic data since World War II. And on top of that, when you think that Barack Obama has instituted government-mandated health insurance and that health care makes up 23% of the GDP, what the numbers you're really looking at are much worse than at first glance. All right, thank you guys for joining me here on the Silver Report. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe, like the videos, share the videos, get the word out. I thank you so much for stopping by. As always, stay safe.